Shabbat Shalom indeed. I am Rabbi Aaron Meyer at Temple Emmanuel of South Hills, and along with Rabbi Jessica Locketz. We are so excited to welcome you to our Shabbat evening service, and so excited as well to welcome our special guest, Elana Jagoda, a musician from San Mateo, California, is gracing us with her presence in the beautiful music of Jewish tradition this evening. Elana, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
It is such a blessing to have you and to have you leading us in song and in prayer. And I understand we start this evening with words welcoming the Sabbath bride.
Boi Kala. So we take a deep breath to let go of the week. We welcome in the Shabbat bride. Boi Kala, Boi Kala, Boi Kala, Boi Kala. Sing it with me, Boi Kala, Boi Kala, Boi Kala, Boi Kala. Hacham b'merosh ha'ilano istalka, בואו ונצא לקראת שבת המלכה. החם מראש האילנות נסתלקה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה, בואי כלה.
And let everyone know that we were in for a treat, and we begin to get just a taste of that as we welcome a taste of the Sabbath. It is a special Shabbat, not only because each of us gets to be here together, gathered in sacred, if virtual, community, but also because tomorrow morning we celebrate the coming of age, the bat mitzvah, of a tremendous young woman. In just a moment, Hannah Dell and her family are going to join us to kindle the lights of Shabbat. But before we get there, a special melody. Elana, though I don't believe you've had the chance to make it here in person, your music certainly has. And your melody, Bring in the Light, when I let our ECDC, when I let our community know you were coming, they jumped. They said, we've heard this. It's part of PJ Library. We love. You have to make sure. And so I'm excited that you introduce our lighting of the Shabbat candles with this melody of yours.
Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. We light the lights of Shabbat. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. להדליק נר של שבת. Shabbat Shalom, may you have a peaceful day. Shabbat Shalom, may you have a restful day. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. We light the lights of Shabbat. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. להדליק נר של שבת. Shabbat Shalom, time to take a big deep breath. Shabbat Shalom, special day for us to rest. Bring in the light, bring in the light, bring in the light of Shabbat. We light the lights of Shabbat. להדליק נר של שבת.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
We continue welcoming Shabbat with words from Psalm 95 on page 12.
לכו נרננה, יאי לי 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 לאדוני, יאי לי 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 נהריה, יאי לי 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 לצור ישכנו, יאי לי לי לי. Let's try it again. Even if you get tripped up on the Hebrew, just join in the yadadai part. Lechu, lechu neranena, yai lai 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 lai, la Adonai, yai lai 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 lai, nahariya, yai lai 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 lai. Tzur yishenu, yai lai 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 lai. Let us sing out to God, the maker of all, sure and strong. Let all of creation, from mountain to sea, hear our song. Yai lai 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 lai. La Adonai, yai lai 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 lai, nahariya, yai lai 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 lai, letzur yishenu, yai lai 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 lai. For all of the wonders and all of God's light, we rejoice. So now let's listen with all of our hearts to hear God's voice. Lechu neranena, yai lai 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 lai, la Adonai, yai lai 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 lai, nahariya, yai lai 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 lai. Tzur yishenu, yai lai 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 lai.
We're so fortunate to have with us this evening Elana Jagoda. We're so fortunate to welcome each of you for our Kabbalat Shabbat service. And as we turn to page 20 in our prayer book, there we find words of Lecha Dodi, welcoming the Sabbath herself to be with us on this day of rest, this day of rejuvenation, this day of recreation, this day of songs of praise and joy. Page 20.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekambela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekambela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekambela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'diburecha, hishmianu elam yuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shimu tiferet v'litchila. Lecha Dodi לך דודי לקראת כלה, פן היא שבה נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פן היא שבה נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פן היא שבה נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פן היא שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פן היא שבה נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פן היא שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום מעטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהולה, תוך אמוני ים סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פן היא שבה נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פן היא שבת נקבלה.
Having welcomed this Sabbath, we turn now to welcoming God's ministering angels as we welcome all who are joining us. I invite you, as we have from the beginning, recognizing how challenging this time is for so many, to grab your electronic devices. It sounds counterintuitive for a rabbi to say, but it's the way that we can connect with others during this challenging time. Send a quick note. Use this chance to make a quick phone call even to someone in your orbit, someone who may be alone this evening, someone of whom you are thinking as the Sabbath begins. We continue on page 24 as we welcome God's ministering angels as we continue our welcoming for each of us with words of Shalom Aleichem.
I was always a little confused why we welcome the angels in and then send them off so quickly. Tzeitchem l'shalom. They just arrived. Why do they have to leave so soon? But I always like to think that the angels can take away the part of the week that we don't need to take with us into Shabbat. So whatever you'd like to let go of, send it off with the angels. Tzeitchem l'shalom, so that we can enter Shabbat with a little bit more peace. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharim, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Di l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzidechem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We continue on page 26. Yikadav Yikadashame Rabba Bialma Divrachrote Viamlich Malchute Bechayechon Uvyomechon Uvchayedecho Beit Yisrael Bagala Bagala Uvizmahan Kariv Bimeru Amen Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam lo me'amaya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal. Shmei kudisha b'richu. Le'lam yinkom birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran Bilma Vimeru Amen.
We continue with our call to prayer. We start with the words, am I awake? Am I prepared? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayers? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Yada-da-da-da-da, 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 yada-da-da-da-da. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed. Yada-da-da-da, 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 yada-da-da, yada-da-da-da, yada-da-da-da, yada-da-da-da.
Words of Ma'ariv Aravim on page 30. Our prayer for the onset of evening, our prayer connecting us with this earth in which we live. And on that note, I hope you will join us immediately following tonight's service as board member Sarah Levinthal has the opportunity to talk to Dr. Patricia DeMarco about sustainability, about Temple's efforts, about what's taking place in our corner of the world to keep that world, the world it needs to be, one that we would be proud to pass to future generations. Would you join me on the bottom of page 31? This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is an hour of change, and we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. We continue now with the watchwords of our faith, pages 34 and 35.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Page 36. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושינתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ושופך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Mi Chamocha is a song of God's majesty, a God working wonders, performing miracles. And as the Israelites wandered in the desert, they were witness to so many of God's miracles. First, the splitting of the Red Sea, and then manna that fell from the heavens that provided nourishment. But it was our holy sister Miriam that brought upon the miracles of the sacred waters that arose to provide sustenance and healing for the Israelites. This is a melody I wrote called Holy Sister Miriam, and it's also part of Mi Chamocha. Holy sister, holy daughter, where you are we find the water. Where you are we hear the song. Holy sister Miriam, holy sister, holy daughter, where you are we find the water. Where you are we hear the song. Holy sister Miriam, spring up, oh healing, no healing waters will follow you, oh down to the well. Spring up, oh healing waters. Holy sister, holy daughter, sing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. So if we were together in person, I would have you stomp and clap the groove. So we're going to try it. So what I need you to do is get your feet going, and we're going to add the clap. So it's a stomp, clap, stomp, clap, stomp, clap. You got it. Let's try it. Stomp, clap. And we'll sing the hallelujah. 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 Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha edar ba'kodesh, song, Holy Sister Miriam.
It is a beautiful melody, and I'm grateful for your sharing it with us this evening. And I'm grateful for your carving an authentic place in this prayer for Miriam, who's been left out for way too long. As we turn in our Siddur to page 42, we find our prayer, Hashkivenu, asking for God's sheltering protection over us with the onset of evening. We ask for this sense of protection with the onset of darkness. We ask for this sense of protection for all in this troubled world. We continue now on page 42.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom Lecha Amideinu Shomreinu Lechayim Ufros Aleinu Sukkah Shlomecha Ufros Aleinu Sukkah Shlomecha. Guardian of life, guardian of peace, keep us safe in the night. Shomreinu lechayim. Guardian of life, guardian of peace, keep us safe in the night. Shomreinu lechayim. Shomreinu lechayim. Guardian of life, guardian of peace, keep us safe in the night. Shomreinu lechayim. Guardian of life, guardian of peace, keep us safe in the night. Shomreinu lechayim. Guard the sweet soul of humanity. Please protect us under your great canopy, so we will feel the shelter of your love. Feel the shelter of your love. Guardian of life, guardian of peace, keep us safe in the night. Shomreinu lechayim. Guardian of life, guardian of peace, keep us safe in the night. Shomreinu lechayim. Shomreinu lechayim. Shomreinu lechayim.
Would you join me now on the top of page 45? We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all of the time. And as we continue with our Shabbat Amidah, I invite you to rise in spirit, to rise in body if you choose, as we join on page 46. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agite ilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Velohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, L'man Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav LeHoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Ve'Rofeh Cholim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atah Hayot HaKol. Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Chdoshim B'chol Yom Yalu Chasela. Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. I would invite you to take this opportunity, to take a deep breath, to breathe in, to breathe out, to center yourself, to add to these traditional words of prayers, those prayers that can only come from your own heart. We'll pause for but a moment of silent prayer before we welcome Elana back for another beautiful prayer. I'm so grateful to have Elana Jagoda with us, leading us in worship this evening, and I'm excited to be worshiping with each of you as well. Oh, Elana, you may have muted yourself.
Okay, there we go. This is a song called Taste the Light. It's written by David Lamont, and he is part of a group called Abraham Jam, an interfaith group of 3 musicians that have come together to build community. Taste the light. Open wide and taste the light. Falling from the stars tonight. This cannot be quantified. Open wide and taste the light. Lay your cheek against this song. Let it hold you firm and strong. Ringing like a carillon. Lay your cheek against this song. Feel the heartbeat of the drum. once were young. Feel the heartbeat of the drum. Drink the notes like drops of wine. Warm in spirits, slowing time. Winding like an arbor vine. Drink the notes like drops of wine. Standing in this circle here, kindred spirits gathered near. On my cheek a sacred tear. Standing in this circle here, open wide and taste the light. Falling from the stars tonight. This cannot be quantified. Open wide and taste the light.
What a beautiful melody. And even across the space, across the internet, I can feel the embrace of our community as we gather together and worship together. And thank you for bringing not only that beautiful melody to us, but this moment of sacred community in which we turn now to thoughts of those who are in need of our prayers for healing. All of us have been touched by illness, whether we ourselves have been ill or those we know, those we love. And we pray that we can support them by lifting their spirits, by sending prayers of healing and good thoughts their way. We think of them now. If we are comfortable, we can share their names in the chat for all of us to think of as well. We can say their names out loud in the spaces where we are. We can name them in our hearts. However we choose to think of those we love and care for, we lift our hearts to pray for them, to pray for healing. Baruch atah Adonai Rofei HaCholim. Blessed are you, O God, who brings healing to all of us.
When I first heard the song, it really stopped me in my tracks. It's written by the group Nefesh Mountain. And when I heard it, it was almost as if the song had always been written, and they just downloaded it at the perfect time. They wrote this song a couple days after the synagogue shooting in your Jewish community. The song is called Tree of Life, and I offer it as our prayer for healing. Oh, sweet Spirit, hear my prayer. Help these words heal someone out there. I am but a voice, just a cry in the air, but I sing nonetheless. This pain we share. Oh, sweet friends, come and dry your eyes and hold each other by this tree of life. Angry and tired, this great divide, but I sing nonetheless with love on our side. Oh, sweet souls who feel broken now, will heal together somewhere, somehow. Time and again we have been let down, but we sing nonetheless, still whole and still proud. Oh, sweet Spirit, hear my prayer. Help these words heal someone out there.
Indeed, we are each in need of a little bit of healing and a prayer for healing in our city, in our country, in our lives. And we realize that we can pray to God for strength, for companionship along that walk, but ultimately our belief in our free will, our belief in our individual agency means ultimately that it is up to us. Immediately following the conclusion of our service, board member Sarah Levinthal is going to be in conversation with author and scholar Patricia DeMarco, talking about sustainabilities and pathways for a sustainable future. I hope you will stick with us and as we continue our Shabbat evening beyond our prayers together. But we recognize that it is up to us. Last Shabbat, we shared a special version of Aleinu on page 282, these words recognizing that more than a particularistic prayer, we have a particular responsibility to act on our words of prayer this evening, to bring that sense of healing, that sense of prayer, that partnership with God to light in this world. And so we continue now with these words, it is up to us. A take on the bottom of page 282.
It's up to us to call ourselves to task, to sing what's good and true, to bring about redemption. It's what we were free to do. For what's the point of being here if we're not moved to change our ways? Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. We are carrying the stories of the ones who came before. What stories will be told of us when we are here no more? We commit ourselves to action that brings meaning to our days. Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. It's up to us to own the vision. We are an answer to a call. It's up to us to live the words we speak for the benefit of all. It's up to us to bow down deeply. There's a broken world to raise. Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise.
As we turn to page 294, we remember those who brought light into our lives while they were living, and who, even though they are no longer with us, continue to live on within us as sparks deep within our hearts.
We observe the period of Shloshim for Betty Friedman Diskin, Paul E. Fitting, J. Peter Fried, and Lorraine S. Simon. We mark the yahrzeit, the commemoration of the passing of Richard Ballin, Alice Barish, Herman Cohen, Mervyn Daniels, Philip Diskin, Margaret Fisher, Bertha Fox, Alvin Friedman, Beatrice Gilden, Violet Gross, Leonard Jubileerer, Zelda Judd, Joel Kalick, George Kaplan, Clyde Kirkland, Dorothy Latterman, Jack Levin, Louis Levine, Lawrence I. London, Ann Seltzer Lewick, Richard Mandel, Jacqueline Miller, Abraham Neiman, Meyer Palkovitz, Belle Perlut, Serena Pilasoff, Nettie Protis, Samuel Raphael, Margaret Reisman, Rhoda Ringelheim, Bernard Rodney, Iris Saferstein, Rabbi William Sajewicz, Sigrid Schwartzwelder, Ray Bydorf Selkovitz, Elliot Smolin, Solomon C. Weinstein, Helen Zosky.
Zichram livracha, may their memories be for blessing. And now in this moment of memory, please join me. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divarach hirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayachon uvyomechon, uv'chayedechol be Israel, v'agala uvizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehi shemei rabbah mivarach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithalev v'yithalal shemei dekudisha b'richu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran b'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'akol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Rabbi Locketz, Elana Jagoda, I am grateful for your presence in our service this evening. Elana, when I first reached out, kind of in the early days of the pandemic, asking if we might use one of your songs, you graciously accepted. When I then reached out to ask if you might join us in prayer, you graciously accepted. I hope you know the answer when I ask if your family is willing to relocate to Pittsburgh. We are so grateful to have you with us this evening. Members of the congregation have been chiming in, that they've been singing along, that they've been uplifted by your offerings this Shabbat. And indeed, if I can take a moment of personal privilege, your Oseh Shalom, that was the other song that I had to make sure we worked in this evening, is something of an earworm for me. Not in the same way Baby Shark is an earworm, right? This is imbuing moments where I am singing to myself, walking through the synagogue with moments of holiness and bringing a spring to my step in this kind of challenging time. And I'm grateful for your music. I'm grateful for your leadership. And I'm grateful for your offering us this one last prayer.
Thank you so much for having me, Rabbi Aaron. It's really been a lovely evening, and thank you for welcoming me into your community. Thank you, Rabbi Jessica. So let's sing this one together. Oh, say shalom, bimromav. Oh, say shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom, hu ya'aseh shalom, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu. Count it, 1, 2, 3, sing it. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, I bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, I bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, I bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, I bring peace down. Oh, say shalom, bimromav. Oh, say shalom, bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom, hu ya'aseh shalom, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu. Count it, 1, 2, 3, sing it. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, I bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, I bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, I bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to you as well. Thank you so much for being with us. And I will follow up with you when Shabbat is over with more expressions of my gratitude. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
And I hope you will all stay with us because it is now my pleasure to welcome Temple Board Member Sarah Levinthal to welcome with us Dr. Patricia DeMarco. Well, Sarah, let me leave her in capable hands and I will get out of your way. Thank you both so much.
Thanks, Rabbi Aaron, and thank you, Elana, for the beautiful music tonight. When Rabbi Aaron asked me if I knew of a local speaker who could speak at services about environmental sustainability, I immediately thought of Patricia DeMarco. I met Dr. DeMarco at my Master Naturalist conference last year, as she was our keynote speaker. I found her perspective inspiring, and I loved how she brought Rachel Carson to life for me. From the back of her book here, Patricia DeMarco is a visiting research professor at Carnegie Mellon University and a senior scholar at Chatham University in Pittsburgh. She's also a former executive director of the Rachel Carson Homestead Association and director of the Rachel Carson Institute at Chatham University. Dr. DeMarco has spent a 30-year career in energy and environmental policy in both the private and public sector positions, and currently serves as councilwoman for the borough of Forest Hills, Pennsylvania. In 2017, she was honored with the Freudenberg Lifetime Achievement Award from the Association for Environmental Studies and Sciences. So welcome, Dr. DeMarco.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. You're so sweet. It is really such an honor to be with you tonight. The music is amazing. And how you sit still through this, I don't understand at all because I had to feel like I had to get up and dance. It is really a very moving service. And I thank you so much for sharing that with me and for letting me be part of your evening for a little while tonight. I wanted to share my screen because I think it's easier to understand some of this with a few pictures. So I'm going to try that at this point and see if we can't get this up. Can you see this? Can you see this?
We can, yes, it looks great.
Oh, good. Okay. Great. Okay. So I wanted to talk, and you've been talking all night about nature and beauty and calling the earth to life. And we really are part of the living earth that is fueled by solar power, and it gives us everything that we need, clean water, fresh air, fertile ground, and the biodiversity of species of which we are just one part. And all of the services that we take for granted are what support our life. All of the things that the living earth provides without us having to pay for them are what we depend on for our daily existence and in order to thrive and actually be a part of the living earth ourselves, connected to each other and connected to the living creatures that we share the earth with. But our life support system is under tremendous stress, not only from burning fossil fuel and from resource extraction, but also from our pattern of hyperconsumption and unrestrained population growth. So we have put a lot of stress on the resources of our living earth. And as a result, we are facing three existential crises of the 21st century that are interrelated and linked and need to be resolved in tandem rather than in pieces. We have climate change, a global pandemic, and global pollution, all of which are exacerbated by human behaviors, which we have the power to change and to reverse direction. Our climate goals for reaching a stable climate at 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees above the levels that were present in the industrial age beginning, we are moving way in the wrong direction to reach those ranges of 1.5 to 2 degrees centigrade increase. We need to make a U-turn in our policies in order to reach our goals of having a viable and resilient planet in which we can leave to our children. So we have a lot of work to do to make that U-turn in policy. And this isn't something that is a transition. We are really looking at moving in a metamorphosis to a new way of doing things, a better way of doing things, an actual transformation of our way of using energy and way of using our resources of the earth so that we can live in harmony with nature. We have to respect the fact that the laws of nature are not they're not negotiable. They are things that are a living system that we are part of, and it is not property to be owned and destroyed. And we're facing an ethical problem, not a technology problem. The technologies that we have available to us already are at hand that we can use to make our whole system of using energy and using resources transformed in a way that is much less burdensome to the living earth and that gives us an opportunity to move forward with equity and prosperity. But we have to change the way we're doing things in order to do that. And you can use renewable energy systems that conserve and restore resources, make buildings that make more energy than they use. We can go to regenerative agriculture practices that have a non-toxic base for our food system and that actually captures carbon into the ground by making the ground more fertile by absorbing carbon into the soil. And we have to think about preventing pollution instead of trying to limit how much we actually release. We can actually do things that prevent the formation of toxic and hazardous materials and look at designing for reuse from benign materials. And all of these things can reduce the carbon emissions that we have burdened the earth with. We need to look at sustainability as a goal where we balance out the economy, society, and the environment and make sure that the social safety net and environmental protections are not suppressed by short-term economic gains. And, you know, it's a point of looking more at value than volume. I like to look at the work of Donella Meadows, who wrote the book, The Limits to Growth, a number of years ago. You know, what we really need isn't necessarily enormous cars, but you need respect. You don't need all kinds of clothes. You need to feel attractive, and you need to have excitement and variety and beauty in your life. You need a sense of identity and community and challenge, acknowledgement, love, and joy, such as we experience tonight. And to fill these needs with only material things is to set up an unquenchable appetite for false solutions to real and never satisfied problems. Very wise woman, Donella Meadows, is so sorry we lost her a few years ago to breast cancer. But this concept of the value and the quality of things rather than the quantity of things is something we really need to think about. And I was very moved by the young people's movement. This is the Earth Day celebration that was on the Grant Street steps in last year. And this was the youth climate march. And I always think about Rachel Carson's precautionary principle that we have a responsibility of reducing the burden not only to our own generation, but to those of the future. We have an obligation to our children and to their children. If we're going to have a world that survives, we need to make space for them. And there are several layers of justice in this issue of dealing with climate change. One is the intergenerational issue that I just mentioned. We have an obligation of current generations toward the future generations. They're suffering irreversible changes from actions that we're taking today that will compromise the options of our children and our grandchildren for the future. And we've been reimagining communities, growing to address plans for recovery of abandoned industrial areas, reinvesting in communities, and making new hope, new prosperity, and new opportunities in places that have been destroyed by extractive industries already. And I recommend to you going to the Reimagine Appalachia as a place to see how some of these community initiatives are coming together. There's also the matter of international justice, where the developed countries are responsible for half of the carbon emissions of the world, and the poorest 50% are only responsible for about 10% of the entire emissions of the world. And so we have a responsibility to look at our own consumption patterns and reduce our burden on the world. And one example is palm oil. It's used extensively for snack foods, and it devastates 27 million hectares of rainforest every year. This is something that is causing tremendous ecosystem damage, as well as leaving populations of not only animals, but also people in desperate needs. There's also the international disparities in geographic distribution of harms. Island nations as well as coastal cities. This is New York, Miami. Many coastal cities in the Gulf Coast have been inundated with storm surges. And there are places where the lack of the traditional industries is causing severe economic and social displacement and distress. And we have wildfires and drought in the farmlands. All of these things require that we all take responsibility and help to even out the effects on our own country, never mind across the world. We have an obligation to look at how we can together solve these problems that are creating such extreme hardship in some parts of our own country. We need to preserve the right for life to exist. The laws of nature are not negotiable. We can't legislate the laws of chemistry and physics or biology in response to changes of the environment. We have to try to live in harmony with nature and get over the time of exploitation and subjugation of nature. We need to find a way to live with the laws of nature and reinforce and protect the natural systems that we depend on. We have to replace the fear, not only fear of change, but fear of what is coming. People don't move to a vacuum, and there is no great confidence that what's coming next is going to be as good as what people knew in the past. But we have to have a plan for a sustainable economy, a just transition that creates decent work and quality jobs. And it is a time to choose within our control what we choose to invest in, what we choose to empower, what we choose to subsidize, and what we choose to regulate. These things are a choice that we can make. Do we want Ohio River Valley to become a petrochemical industry hub that is dependent on plastic? Or do we want to look at a diversified community investment opportunities that give us green chemistry opportunities and renewable energy resources and thrive on the living systems that we can coexist with? It is our choice. And we need to focus on the fact that there is a beautiful, wonderful world yet. We can connect to the natural world and take courage to defend and protect the living earth. We're more alike in our humanity than different in religion or politics or culture or gender or race. And all the living things that we share this earth with have the right to exist. And we need to find a way to live in harmony with them and in harmony with each other. And I like to think about the words of Rachel Carson. The more clearly we focus on the wonders of the universe about us, the less taste we shall have for its destruction. So I would welcome a chance to have a conversation now after that short introduction. And I welcome your questions.
Great. Well, as you know, when we were preparing for this interview, you had mentioned that you had some sustainability efforts that you led in your former church. Could you share some of those efforts and how you were able to create some changes?
I was in the Cheshire United Methodist Church in Cheshire, Connecticut, and we had a group of high school students who were under the tutelage of a geology teacher in high school, and they came and did an energy audit of the church, and we created an energy posse, and they used the church as kind of the learning laboratory for teaching them how to do energy audits. So they measured all the rooms, and they computed the volume of the air. They went down and looked at the furnace, and we ended up having to build a new sanctuary. And so in the design of that new space, we incorporated passive solar design features and as many as we could afford at that time. To realize this is 1980, 84. So it was a long time ago, but we did extra glazing on the windows and just in low flow water use, and just incorporated an awareness. And we also did workshops for the parishioners to go back to their house and do all the low cost, no cost things that you could do in your own home. So it became kind of a learning laboratory for the congregation as well. And we did exchange with other churches in the community because we did a lot of ecumenical services in that community, and shared with, I think there were 8 different congregations in that town. And we always did a Thanksgiving program, and we ended up doing a marvelous multifaceted production of Lazarus the Beggar for Bread for the World, to raise money for a church that had burned down in another community. So we used this as kind of a learning laboratory, as a place to give example, and basically a teaching space.
Okay. Well, so we're kind of starting or reviving an environmental sustainability committee at Temple. What do you think would be the most impactful area for us to focus on right now?
Well, the first thing to look at is, what can you do just by increasing awareness, and taking that into action. So when you're aware of, it's either going to go up the chimney or you can keep it and not have to spend money. So you can look at how you can save by tightening up and caulking the windows, and, getting your furnace inspected. I don't know what kind of heating system you have there, but, looking at, the things that need attention. If there's someone in your community who can do an energy audit for your building, that's the first thing. But then looking at the behavioral changes, can you share rides? Can you walk? And you're doing services in remote, so you're not driving all back and forth. There's a lot of energy saving engaged there. But it's also, when you do use electricity, can you buy 100% renewable energy from one of the 4 or 5 providers that serve Pennsylvania? You can just look on the Public Utilities Commission website. They have to tell you, and you want to choose a provider that generates renewable power within Pennsylvania somewhere. Because if it's coming from outside of Pennsylvania, it's just wheeling through and you're getting whatever is around here. But if you buy something that's made in Pennsylvania, then it will displace fossil resources right in our own area. So I think there are 3 or 4 of them that you can choose from.
Oh, those are great tips. Great. Yeah, it's kind of a weird time because, with COVID, we're not in the building as much, but, I think that, as you said before too, some of the changes that are happening because of COVID can also, be helpful in the future.
But helping people understand that we all have a role to play. This isn't something that is going to be solved by, big programs out there somewhere. I mean, they can help a lot. And standardized policies for like building codes or corporate average fleet efficiency standards for vehicles or appliance standards or things of that nature, those are really difficult to do unless you have a universal standard to move toward, and hopefully we'll be getting back on the track of putting those things in place. But in the meantime, individual choices, where you fall on the food chain, can make a big difference. So even doing 1 day a week meatless, or trying to we're down to the point we do meat once a week. And that's like Sunday dinner, and the rest of the time you eat lower on the food chain. That helps a lot too. There are lots of things you can do if you start looking at it, and just make it kind of a cooperative thing. Is like, oh, I found this really cool recipe for, whatever, beans and greens, or I found all kinds of recipes that were my grandmother's from when we were little. We didn't know we were poor. We just ate what there was. And so it was a lot of vegetables and beans and polenta, and, we had eggs, and because we had chickens, and we had illegal chickens under the porch. So we had chickens. It was just a culturally attuned food preparation. But people can find all kinds of ways to live lower on the consumption chain. The whole business of, like, most of the things that I'm wearing right now were thrown out by my daughter because she wanted more fashionable things. And I said, well, they're perfectly good. Why are you throwing them out? So handing things around and So they're new to me, but they're not new to her. So you can look for ways to avoid the consumption for the sake of consumption. And, going back to things like gifting hand embroidered things or handmade things, writing poetry for presents, or writing haiku for presents, or doing a drawing or something that is meaningful to people, sharing time with a person, gifts of time, instead of packages wrapped up in ribbon. I think all of us can think about the fact that on a per capita basis, we use about 3 times as much energy per person in America than we do in France or Germany or England. I mean, 3
Wow,
times.
that's
We are
crazy.
not an uncivilized world, but our
Mhm,
standards, we don't think about it. We don't
mhm.
think that there's embedded energy, embedded resources in everything we use. So anything that you buy with the intention of throwing away is an opportunity to conserve resources.
Yeah, we're a big fan of experiential gifts here. So
I can't hear you.
sorry, Rabbi.
Aha, there we go. Hopefully that's a little better. I apologize. I wanted to jump in both with an observation and with a question from someone who's listening with us this evening. The observation, another temple congregant, David Rulo, recommended a book called Remix Judaism. And right, how do traditions evolve and change? And one of the things the author suggested or labeled that I had not heard before was Mushi Jews, meat only on Shabbat, holidays, and special occasions, right?
Oh,
The idea that when we make conscious choices, which is a very religious thing, we can choose to do so to bring I don't know, added value or a celebration rather than every day really making it special. And that's ties to the question that we were asked. And it's a little bit in the weeds, apologies. Said that there is a growing number of meat substitute products,
mhm.
Beyond Burger, Invisible Foods, others, that seem to be better for the environment and yet bring a tremendous amount of processing that may counteract those benefits. And the questioner wanted to know what you thought. And with that, I'll get out of
Well,
your way.
I suggest, number 1, read the ingredients, okay? If there are a lot of things on there that you don't recognize as foodstuffs, I would be questioning it. Secondly, if it is highly processed, that is also embedding a lot of energy into the formation of that food stuff. And so I would look for things that are as minimally processed as possible because you're closer to an actual food source. Um, I have this argument a lot with my daughter. Their whole family is vegan. And every
Mhm,
time I go there to visit, I have to start really watching my blood pressure because
mhm.
all of the substitute foods have a tremendous amount of sodium in them. And they're very processed. And so one of their favorite things to make is tofu based, or it isn't really tofu, it's a wheat gluten sort of based thing that looks like barbecued spare ribs. And I'm saying, but okay, if you like barbecue sauce, why don't you just put it on celery or something? It's like, because by the time you finish eating all of this processed stuff, it has so much salt in it. So you really need to look at what the ingredients are and look at what the embedded energy is in these things. So, if it's just plain tofu and it's a molded bit of tofu that's just a soy product, that's one thing. But when it's made into something to simulate, chicken cutlets or, whatever, it isn't necessarily a real food. And you have to really look at what's in it. So I am a great recommender of reading the ingredients, and I get along just fine without having to use meat substitutes.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm a vegetarian, but my family doesn't always love that cooking. I would prefer to just highlight vegetables, but we
yeah,
toss in some of the meat substitutes sometimes to kind of make it
give
more
it some
family
variety.
friendly.
Yeah,
Um,
you have to negotiate, the family it's hard. I live with carnivores, so life is interesting to say the least. Yeah.
I hear you. Well, we were talking before a little bit about gifts, and it made me think that this is the time of year when a lot of people are considering charitable giving as well. Are there local efforts? I mean, you talk about so many organizations in your book. Can I hold it up? Am I allowed to kind of mention?
Sure.
Yeah. So your Pathways to a Sustainable Future is Dr. DeMarco's book. There we go. And you highlight a lot of really interesting organizations in the Pittsburgh area that are doing really amazing things. But are there local efforts that we could support this time of year that you can think of?
Oh my goodness. That giving is such a personal thing. I
Yeah.
think what you need to do is to find an organization that speaks to your heart. And if it's an environmental organization or a social, benefit organization or a community organization, I think it isn't so much which one that you give to as the fact that you think about sharing what you have with people who need in our community as a benefit. I'm on the board of FIPS trustees, and so I tend to give my giving in FIPS and the Allegheny Land Trust and the Battle of Homestead Foundation because I serve on the boards of those organizations. But I think wherever you put your priority for doing good, all of these organizations can use help. And another one that I find really, and I wrote about them in my book as well, is the Ujamaa Collective, which really, it was a group of 17 women under the leadership of Salita Hickman, who started a women's prayer circle to circulate a mini micro investment opportunity. They would pass the hat and one person got it every month and could use it however they want. They now have a women's collective that has a partnership with other women in Kenya for importing and exporting and exchanging goods. They have quite a few entrepreneurial enterprises that have grown out of this group, including a little girl who started at 12 years old making cupcakes for birthday parties. So she'd buy a box of cake mix for $1.25 and she'd sell the cupcakes for $5 a dozen. And this is the kind of thing that it's neighborhood entrepreneurship that grew, and that's one of my favorites too. So.
Oh, that's great. Let's see, I'm trying to think. Temple is situated in a pretty, our temple is in a pretty privileged area in the South Hills. Are there activities or things that we could do to encourage kind of environmental justice in our area? One thing I thought of was something like a purple air monitor or something like that could call attention to some of the, we're right near in the Bridgeville area. There's some concerning industrial areas, something that could call attention to some of the air quality issues that affect us all. Can you?
I think we're recognizing that both air and water do not respect boundaries, political boundaries, neighborhood boundaries. And so anytime if you have a neighbor, like I have a neighbor in Braddock, the community of Braddock, and we're all in the plume of the Coke Works. And so helping the people who are in your neighbors who are in the immediate vicinity of whatever your pollution source is in your neighborhood, giving voice to their concern, cross-meeting with them and helping them to elevate the needs that they have and the concerns that they have, and expanding the power of their voice. Joined voices, the power of joined voices is really important. So you can build alliances with people who have adjoining communities or adjoining neighborhoods, and help to give power and elevate their voice in places where it can make a difference.
Great. I don't know, Rabbi Aaron, if there are any other congregation questions or.
There are indeed. Congregant Lee Feldman asks if is there something like a master list, or is there a good website you might recommend? How might we look holistically or review all of the different ways we might have an impact when it comes to the environment and sustainability, right? Is there a personal action audit or something of the like?
You can actually go to a carbon footprint calculator. And there's one that the EPA puts out where you have to have all your utility bills in hand in order to go through it and enter a lot of data. So if you're a data wonk and you want to monitor your expenses down to a fine detail, you can go to the EPA carbon footprint. There are several that are put out by like the Nature Conservancy or 350.org, or you can just go and Google, carbon footprint, and you can calculate your own carbon impact and make a challenge to yourself to see what can I do to lower my carbon footprint. And they range in complexity from ones that require a lot of data entry to ones where you just slide a little thing and say, well, I think I'm about here, I'm about there, and some where you just check off boxes. So you can look at a couple of them and see which one meets your need the best. The main thing is to start noticing and thinking before you engage in purchases or activities, and start thinking, oh, I'm going to run out for milk. Is there anything else I can get while I'm out to avoid a second or third or fourth trip by somebody else in the household, and consolidate? You'd be amazed how much your unnecessary driving is reduced by just thinking first. And or drive to a central place and walk to your destinations if you can. I know there are lots of places in South Hills where you can do that, not so many where I am. But I think you have to just start thinking about it, and looking at how you can, move your consumption patterns down on the level of per capita use, and track it.
I love the idea that there is a consciousness raising that is one of the most important things we can be doing. And that kind of dovetails to the last question that I received and wanted to get to ask you. Namely, it seems like we are headed into a really challenging economic time, right? The tale from the 2008 financial downturn was a pretty long one, and I anticipate, as does the questioner, that this one will be as well. That makes us more reticent to make changes in our lives, or changes that would have a big impact. And yet something that you mentioned as part of the slideshow seemed to be, but wait, that is the right time, right? When there is an opportunity, it's not taking away jobs, but rather how can we build back better, to forgive that used political slogan.
To recognize that the crises that we're facing, the pandemic, the climate change, and the pollution, they're linked, they're interconnected. We're not going to be able to solve them one at a time by taking them apart. We have to recognize that the causes are relatively few and they're under our control, but it's going to take a monumental amount of will. It is not a technology problem, believe me. I mean, the technologies are there, and if we put in place the policies that say federal procurement is going to use passive solar design in all new buildings on federal facilities and adopt solar, the price is going to continue to come down. It's already getting down for utility scale installations. If we can put our policies to support the things that we need to be doing and stop subsidizing the things we need to move away from, and talk to our energy industries. I've been hoping to get a meeting with some leaders of the gas and coal industry and talk about, if you're going to be in the energy industry at the end of the 21st century, you're not going to be burning gas and coal. You're going to be managing the hydrogen economy. So how do we transform what you're doing now, apply the infrastructure that you have, the skills that you have, the capacity and capability, and shift it to a hydrogen economy instead of a natural gas economy? You're still in the energy industry, you're just doing something different where the byproduct is water and oxygen. How cool is that, right? Where we're making fuel cells instead of power plants. I mean, it's a matter of applying the knowledge that we have to the problem that we have in a way that gives us a sustainable solution that is equitable and that will build prosperity. Wall Street is doing fine. Local towns, not so much. Individual people, not so much. A lot of people unemployed. And if they end up without avoiding the evictions at the end of December, it's going to be a very, very, very difficult winter for a lot of people. Those are policy choices that we can make to either abet and alleviate difficulty or exacerbate emerging problems. We know very well what's coming at us. We just have to have the force of will and the moral fortitude to stand up to long-term vested interests of a very small minority of companies.
Dr. Patricia DeMarco, Temple Board member Sarah Levinthal, I'm grateful for your time, for this opportunity on behalf of the congregation to learn from you both. And I'm excited for those things, Sarah, that we can do together as a congregation to continue to move this needle forward. It is a challenging time ahead of us, a time where we are all thinking about what the future has in store. And in addition to just thinking about it, we truly have an opportunity to act upon it. As Elana shared with us during the service, it is up to us. And I look forward to bringing that into reality.
You've been talking about peace all evening, and if we want peace, we have to work for justice. And it's a job all of us have together. So thank you so much for letting me share part of your evening, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for joining us.